WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org. WADR, promoting dialogue.
Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Former Ivorian President Gbagbo launches Enough is Enough movement. Nigeria's President Tinubu pledges to uphold democratic rights in national speech.
No one should bear the brunt of injustice for merely writing a bad report about me or called me names.
Bahama grant clemency orders the reopening of 64 radio stations in Ghana.
As the current government, the ministry has also been instructed to waive all the applicable fines that should have been applied to the defaulting entities.
And Malian court adjourns hearing on Barrick's Lulo Gonkoto Gold Complex to June 16. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to all of our listeners across the sub-region. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where former President Laurent Gbagbo and leader of the opposition PPACI party has launched the Enough is Enough movement on Thursday via an open letter posted on his party's Facebook page. Gbagbo explained that the movement is a cross-cutting tool, a gathering space beyond political divisions to make real concerns of the population heard. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Right from the start, Laurent Gbagbo paints a grim picture of the situation in Côte d'Ivoire. According to him, the country is going through a difficult period marked by 15 years of RHDP governance, which he describes as autocratic and deaf to the democratic and social aspirations of the people. He said the current leadership has led to growing poverty, exclusion, rising inequality, frustration and disillusionment. It is in this precise context that he is inviting Ivorians to join his Enough is Enough movement. He describes as a broad civic mobilization platform capable of bringing people together beyond partisan divisions. He further clarified that the Enough is Enough movement is not a political party, while stressing that it aims to be a citizen lever capable of uniting the nation's vital forces. Political parties, unions, associations, young people, women, precarious workers, teachers, farmers and the unemployed. In this letter to Ivorians, Laurent Gbagbo noted that the Enough is Enough movement is based on two major priority demands, namely social demands and respect for the constitution. Ivorians will head to the polls on October 25, 2025 to choose a new president. However, former President Laurent Gbagbo, who was removed from the electoral roll, assures that he will fight to the end to regain his civil rights.
Christopher Teacher filed that report. Let's head now to Nigeria, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has pledged to uphold the democratic rights of all citizens, particularly the freedom of speech. He stated this while delivering his Democracy Day speech at a joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja on Thursday. The president sent a strong message to security agencies, warning them against harassing Nigerians who criticize his administration. Correspondent Yesino Sasetu in Abuja has more details in this report.
The president's remarks come amid mounting allegations that his administration has been targeting journalists and critics under the guise of enforcing the Cybercrime Prohibition Act and other legal provisions. Civil society groups have decried what they call a shrinking civic space and increasing intolerance of opposition voices. President Tinubu also called on his supporters and lawmakers to adopt a culture of dialogue rather than dictatorship and to prioritize persuasion over suppression.
No one should bear the brunt of injustice for merely writing a bad report about me or call me names. Democracy requires a fair degree of tolerance for harsh words and stinging insults.
Meanwhile, the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, is warning of what it calls creeping authoritarianism. The party accused the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, of plotting to turn Nigeria into a one-party state using poverty and economic hardship as tools of political control. This accusation, President Tinubu denied in his speech.
As elected leaders, we must continue to do more to make real the dream of Nigerian political and economic democracy. We must be vigilant in expanding the political space. We must always value dialogue over dictatorship. Order, please.
Despite the tensions, the National Assembly on Thursday made a landmark decision by formally adopting June 12 as the official day for the Nigerian president to address a joint session of the legislature every year. This move, lawmakers say, reinforced the symbolic significance of Democracy Day in the nation's political calendar. For WADR, Yechinu Sasetu in Abuja.
Still on Democracy Day in Nigeria, across the 36 states and the capital Abuja, commemorative events, symposiums, parades, and media discussions were held. Schools and universities were also organizing debates and essay competitions to educate younger generations about the significance of this pivotal moment in Nigeria's democratic history. However, many are divided in opinions. If Nigeria's democracy is thriving, others believe it is an opportunity to reaffirm a shared national vision rooted in the ideals for which heroes like MKO Abiola lived and died.
When you talk about democracy, there are things we are not supposed to buy with our money. We stay in FCT, Federal Capital Territory. We buy water. We pay for water. We even pay for the people to take our dustbin. Those days when somebody is contesting for an election, you don't come and say you are going to give us pipe-borne water. It is not part of campaign. It's part of the amenities they are supposed to provide for us. Somebody represents our constituency. They are not doing anything.
To me, I don't really think that is a democracy day. The government is supposed to take care of people. But in these days, government eat alone. They only take care of themselves in their offices.
I believe democracy is real in Nigeria. There is true transition of power without bloodshed and whatever. And for over 2 years, to me, I believe things are okay for me, generally. The current administration is doing very well.
Democracy has been all right for the past 2 years. There's true democracy in Nigeria because the election was conducted and the winner was announced. For me, I can see a gradual transformation based on infrastructures.
But right now in Nigeria is looking like a one-party system, is looking more like dictatorship. And for the economy, I should say the economy has been economizing.
A cross-section of Nigerians speaking there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association GRNMA met on Thursday with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health to resolve the ongoing strike. Recall the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association began an indefinite strike on June 2. They are protesting the government's failure to implement the 2024 collective agreement. The association believes this delay harms their members' welfare and healthcare quality nationwide. In response, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health invited leaders for discussions. They aim to address the situation and find a way forward. Here is Chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, Mr. Clark Kern-Wane, addressing the press after the meeting.
We are very happy that they honored our invitation, and the same thing goes to the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance, and Fair Wages. They were all in to assist us, and of course my committee members, the honorables, all of them were here, and we must say that we've been sitting down for the past 4 hours, from 10 o'clock up to 2 o'clock, and we've had a very fruitful negotiations. We've tried to understand each other, We have tried as much as possible to synchronize our activities, and now what we can say at this moment is that the discussions were fruitful, and we've asked, or the nurses have requested that they have to go back to their council. By their regulations, they have to go back to their council, and then we'll come back, or they'll come back, or we'll hear something from them. I think that is fair. If the Busapayins to send you to go and lead a discussion, you have to bring back the information to them first before any other issue can come out. So at this juncture, I know that you want some information more than this, but let's just exercise patience.
Staying in Ghana, the National Communications Authority (NCA) has directed 62 radio stations to immediately suspend operations due to violations of their broadcasting licenses, primarily for failing to renew frequency authorizations, not paying required fees, or lacking necessary documentation. These enforcement are grounded in Section 2, Subsection 4 of the Electronic Communications Act, which mandate valid frequency authorizations, and Section 13(1)(e) for national security-related revocations. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadia Detete completes the story.
In a statement issued on Thursday, June 12, the National Communications Authority indicated that the infractions relate to non-compliance with provisions of the Electronic Communications Regulations 2011 LI 1991 and the conditions attached to their broadcasting authorizations. According to the NCA, the first phase of its enforcement targets stations identified in a recent frequency audit report. Addressing Parliament on Thursday, Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations, Samuel Nate George, stated that the violations include
Group 1, 28 FM radio stations who are currently operating with expired authorizations. Despite the NCA instructing these stations to cease operations in 2024, several of these stations have continued broadcasting unlawfully. These actions constitute a violation of Section 2.4 of the Electronic Communications Act 2008. Group 2, 14 FM stations, which were issued notices of revocation for failure to establish operations within the required 2-year period following the grant of their authorizations. These stations later requested technical inspections but have not completed the process and have continued to broadcast in violation of Regulation 54 of the Electronic Communications Regulation LI 1991.
The NCA further noted that 13 stations with provisional authorizations have not completed their fee payments, making their operations invalid. An additional 7 stations have paid but are yet to meet the requirements for final authorization. The authority said these stations currently lack valid authorizations or certificates of compliance and must resolve all outstanding issues before returning to air. While acknowledging the role of FM stations in national development, the NCA stressed the need for compliance and warned that continued breaches could result in severe sanctions. It reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring order in the broadcasting space and urged all licensed operators to fully comply with regulatory obligations. For WDR, Nadia Detete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Former Ivorian President Gbagbo launches Enough is Enough movement. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu pledges to uphold democratic rights in national speech. And still ahead in the news, President Mahama grant clemency orders reopening of 64 radio stations in Ghana. And Malian court adjourns hearing on Barrick's Lolo Gunkoto Gold Complex to June 16. We also have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Now let's take you back to Ghana, where in a swift reaction, the President John Mahama has directed the Minister of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation to work with the National Communications Authority (NCA) to immediately restore the broadcast of 64 radio stations that were recently shut down due to regulatory issues. In a statement issued by the presidency, President Mahama emphasized that while regulatory compliance is essential, it must be balanced with the need to uphold and promote media freedom. He cautioned that requiring radio stations to shut down while awaiting the regularization of the authorization could risk constraining that freedom. Consequently, the affected radio stations have been granted a 30-day grace period to fulfill their obligations. Here is the Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations, Samuel Nati George, making the announcement in Parliament.
Spectrum is a finite and highly valuable national resource. It is a public good held in trust for the people of Ghana. Those granted access must therefore comply strictly with all applicable legislations. Mr. Speaker, a few minutes ago, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, directed that the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation work with the regulator, the NCA, to allow all the affected radio stations some additional time to correct the identified breaches within a defined time frame. Those who fail to do so shall have their authorizations formally revoked under the law. In line with this directive from His Excellency the President, the Ministry and the NCA have granted a further 30-day grace period to all defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, this is not the same as the arbitrary revocations and hefty fines imposed under the previous administration. As the current government, the Ministry has also been instructed to waive all the applicable fines that should have been applied to the defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, since morning, I have received calls from colleagues on both sides of the aisle notifying me that some interests they may hold have been affected by the ongoing exercise. Dear honorable colleagues, we passed the laws and have a high bar set for ourselves as honorable members of this august house. We need to lead the way with exemplary conduct. As a ministry and regulator, we are status agnostic and will be fair to everyone irrespective of ethnic, religious, political or social affiliation.
Ghana's Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nati George. Now we head to the Sahel. The Council of Ministers in Mali on Wednesday adopted a bill extending the military transition by 5 years. The document will be submitted to the Transitional Parliament for approval. If approved, the Transitional President, General Assimi Goïta, will remain in office until 2030, proposed in other AES member countries. The government justifies the decision as pivotal to allow the military transition to complete the work it began after the August 2021 coup. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
The text adopted by the Council of Ministers aims to revise the transition charter to allow General Assimi Goïta to remain at the helm of the country for another 5 years. The government justifies the extension of the transition by citing the ongoing security challenge and the threat of international destabilization, which will undermine the vital interests of the population. Bamako therefore emphasizes the need to continue the military transition as in the other AES countries to achieve complete peace in the three states. Mali, which is a member of the Confederation of Sahel States, including Burkina Faso and Niger, says it is therefore necessary for the three countries to continue their common march towards sovereignty, the Council of Ministers indicated. As a reminder, national consultations decided to retain General Abdurrahman Chani in Niger and Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso for the next 5 years. The Malian authorities concluded by emphasizing that extending the military transition until 2030 was one of the recommendations of the consultations with the nation's vital forces held last April in Mali and the diaspora. For several months, the opposition has consistently called for a return to constitutional order. Political parties and associations have recently been dissolved.
Abdullah Hassan with that report. Meanwhile, a Malian court on Thursday adjourned until June 16 a hearing on whether to put Barrick Mining Gold's mining complex suspended since January due to a dispute over taxes and ownership under provisional administration. The Malian government, a shareholder in the Lulo Gunkoto Gold Mining Complex in May, asked the Bamako Commercial Court to appoint an administrator, signaling its desire to end the ongoing standoff and reopen the complex as global gold prices soar. Augustine Koli completes the story.
If reopened, the mine could bring in revenues worth at least $1 billion over the next 12 months due to record-high gold prices, according to Reuters estimates. Due to the standoff, however, Mali risks repelling potential investors, while Barrick's shares have lacked those of its peers. The government and the Canadian miner have been at odds since 2023 over the implementation of a new mining code that raises taxes and gives the government a greater share in the gold mines. Barrick suspended operations at the complex in mid-January after authorities blocked its exports and seized 3 metric tons of its gold stock. It has since removed the Malian gold complex from its overall output forecast for 2025. Outside of court, negotiations between the two sides continue, according to people close to the talks. Mali has agreed to allow Barrick to repatriate 20% of its earnings into an international bank account, an exception that was not made for any other foreign miners who recently negotiated contracts with the state, two people familiar with the matter said. Recall in December, Barrick launched international arbitration proceedings over the dispute. In May, it asked the World Bank's arbitration court to halt the Bamako commercial court proceedings. According to two people aware of the development, the tribunal rejected that request.
Augustine Kohler with that report. And back in the context of accelerated digital transformation, the Force N program, that is open training for skills development in digital employment and entrepreneurship, led by UNCHK in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation, stands out as a concrete response to the challenges of job market and digital entrepreneurship in Senegal. Speaking to the press on Thursday, June 12, Force N officials stated that the project aims to train and integrate 70,000 young people, 55% of whom are women, into digital careers or entrepreneurship. This initiative aligns with the country's technological New Deal. This project, according to Dr. Seydina Musanjai, director of the Force and program, the result demonstrate its significant impact.
Nous avons un objectif de 80 000 jeunes formés d'ici 2027.
We have a target of 80,000 people trained by 2027, of which 70,000 will be integrated into the workforce by 2027, with 70% of them being women. At the halfway point, we have already trained over 32,000 individuals and integrated more than 26,000. We are projecting that by the end of this year, 50,000 people will have been integrated. Currently, most of the young people we have trained are in less technical digital fields because the most technical areas often require certain prerequisites. In the digital sector, we also aim to support employed youth by helping them strengthen their skills in various professions to improve their career prospects. Since most of our program is delivered online, we have many young people, even in remote or underserved areas, participating in our courses. For example, when we launched the Certificate for All, 40% of the youth enrolled came from rural areas.
Dans la zone UEMOA et de sortir un peu du Sénégal.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, our guest is Barrister Mohammed Bashman, a legal researcher and public affairs commentator. Bashman tells WDA about the ongoing discourse on the Democracy Day celebration in Nigeria, which in clear terms assesses the country's democratic journey since 1999. For Mohammed Bashman, democracy is not just about elections and transitions, but the human representation, economic empowerment, national security, and overall development.
Over 3 decades after our return to civilian rule, when you look back, you begin to question what is it for the everyday working Nigeria. Working day Nigeria in terms of their social, economic well-being. As of prior to 1999, the minimum wage agreed is less than 5,000 naira. Today, an average Nigerian worker is entitled by law to over 70,000 naira as a monthly salary. If you do your math, you think that's over like 5,000% increment. But the reality is that what an average Nigerian working family can do with their mega 5,000 30 years ago, they can achieve it with 70,000 at the present day Nigeria. As I speak with you, inflation is on all-time high of almost close to 30%. The unemployment rate is there. So, sum it all. Democracy governance to me is not just about peaceful transition of power, but also the well-being of the general populace. Democracy by itself is government of the people, by the people, for the people. So if we limit it to just the democratic process of change of government, the element of for the people is missing. So once for the people is missing in the definition of our political experiment, I think there's nothing to celebrate.
The current government in place, led by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has argued that this did not just happen today, that a series of events and policies or reforms being implemented before now had culminated into what Nigeria is today, and they are trying their best to make sure that they reverse some of these negative indices. What do you make of that claim or assertion?
It would be unfair to put the whole blame on this current administration or the occupant of the president in person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But the truth is that he has been part of the ruling class. As a matter of fact, he was part of the class of 99. He was the governor of Lagos State in 1999 up to 2004, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, then to also say, the immediate past administration is from his own ruling party. And there's this joke among people that he midwife the emergence of the then president. So he can't totally isolate himself from the rot, especially the economic rot that we are facing. In terms of reform, some part of his reform, to be candid, looks good, but also the implementation also is devoid of the element of the people. Agreed, we can't keep defending the naira against the dollar. Also, in terms of implementing government policy, it should be systematic, there should be process, there should be procedure, and there should be that element of the people. What is this for the people? So that's my take on that.
And you think the human element was missing when he, on May 29, 2023, upon his swearing in, announced the removal of the fuel subsidy? Many said that was the first misstep of this current regime.
Honestly, without my using word, that's a bit insensitive, because that eroded whatever an average Nigerian has as a purchasing power, because there's a multiplier effect. It has a multiplier effect on everything we do, on transportation, on feeding, on housing. So such kind of policy require some tactics, some wide consultation, and that's how we are where we are.
Let's talk about insecurity. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he assumed office under the Renewed Hope agenda, promised, like his predecessor, to restore peace or calm across the country, the different regions fighting different shades of insecurity. How far has that fight been, like 2 years down the road?
I will answer your question against the background of recent spate of attack, especially in north central Nigeria, like Benue. I think I was just on the news yesterday, over 30 persons were also killed again. So within the space of a month in Benue State alone, over 100 souls have lost. So I think this is a signal that there's security collapse. We can't pretend about it. And importantly, I think one of the cardinal campaign or talking points of the president during his campaign training was restoring security. To me, I can't give them a pass mark on that.
Barrister Mohammed Bashman is a legal researcher and public affairs commentator. In sport news, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has unveiled the official poster and emblem for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, which will be held from July 5 to 26, 2025 in Morocco. 12 teams will participate in the competition, divided into 3 groups. Group A with Morocco, Zambia, Senegal and DR Congo. Group B with Nigeria, Tunisia, Algeria and Botswana, and Group C with South Africa, Ghana, Mali and Tanzania. The matches will take place in 6 stadiums across Morocco, providing a major showcase for women's football on the continent. Originally scheduled for 2024, the competition has been postponed to 2025 for better organization. And that's it on this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo and Umudenyogo for the technical support. Well, let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship environment program, Enviroscope. I am Imo Edit. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio